All right, so today we're going deep into something that
Yeah,
we talk about a lot on the Latin Metal Crew Show,
definitely.
the dark side of heavy metal.
Yeah.
Specifically the crimes committed by
Oh, yeah. Some of the most
some of its most
notorious figures.
well-known figures. Yeah,
It's
it's heavy stuff.
it's heavy stuff.
But I think you'll find it fascinating to see how these real-life events intertwine with this often misunderstood genre.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think these cases really expose a lot about the culture surrounding
Yeah.
good and the bad.
The good and the bad.
Mm.
Okay, so to start us off,
Yeah.
let's go back to 1984.
Okay.
Vince Neil of Mötley Crüe, a car accident,
Right.
and the death of Hanoi Rocks drummer Razzle.
Mm-hmm.
What's the story here?
Well, this case really exemplifies the idea of rock star immunity
Oh,
that was so prevalent in the 80s.
yeah.
Vince Neil was driving under the influence
Right.
and received a remarkably light sentence.
Yeah.
20 days in jail and a fine.
Wow, that really doesn't seem like much considering a life was lost.
Right.
It must have been controversial.
Oh, it absolutely was. There's
Yeah.
a huge public outcry.
Right.
People were demanding accountability and questioning the justice system.
Yeah.
This case really brought the conversation of substance abuse in the rock and roll world to the forefront as well.
It's hard to imagine something like that happening today with the same outcome.
It definitely sparked a necessary conversation about responsibility.
Yeah.
And sadly, substance abuse is a recurring theme we see
Right.
in a lot of these cases.
Yeah. All right, moving on. Let's talk about Gall,
Okay.
the frontman of the Norwegian black metal band Gorgoroth.
Yeah.
We know him for his intense stage presence,
Right.
but this guy's real-life actions were even more intense, right?
Oh, right. Gall was arrested twice.
Oh, wow.
Both times for assault and torture.
Yeah.
And there were disturbing details. of
Yeah.
Claims of blood-drinking rituals.
Blood-drinking rituals, come on, that can't be real.
Well, it's what was alleged.
Really?
Gall later said it was more for showmanship than actual consumption.
Okay.
But it's fascinating that during his trial,
Yeah.
his mother actually defended him by
Yeah.
saying he was a vegetarian and wouldn't even eat meat.
That's a defense I've never heard before.
Right.
I guess it makes sense, though.
Yeah.
You never really know what's real and what's just for show
Yeah.
in the world of extreme metal.
That's the key.
Yeah.
Gall built his image on darkness and extremity, so it can be hard to discern where the performance ends and the person begins.
Yeah. Okay, now let's switch gears a bit
All right.
to Tim Lambesis of As I Lay Dying.
Okay.
This was a shocking case, especially for fans of metalcore.
Mm-hmm.
This guy was a seemingly clean-cut Christian metalhead,
Right.
but there was a dark side to the story.
Definitely, this case goes to show that appearances can be deceiving.
Right.
Lambesis was struggling with personal issues,
Yeah.
steroid use, a failing marriage,
Right.
things like that.
Yeah.
He ended up trying to hire a hitman to kill his estranged wife.
Wait, are you serious? He tried to hire a hitman at his gym, of all places?
I know it sounds like a bad movie,
Yeah.
but it's true.
Wow.
Luckily, the person he approached went straight to the police, and Lambesis was caught in a sting operation.
Oh, wow. It's just a chilling reminder that even within a subgenre like metalcore,
Right.
which many see as a more positive form of metal,
Yeah.
there can be darkness lurking beneath the surface.
It's a reminder that music doesn't always reflect an artist's true self.
Okay, speaking of dark,
Yeah.
let's talk about Pat O'Brien,
All right.
the guitarist for Cannibal Corpse.
Yeah.
Now, this is a band known for its graphic lyrics and imagery,
Right.
but even for them,
Yeah.
O'Brien's actions seemed to cross a line.
Definitely in 2018, O'Brien broke into a neighbor's house,
Wow.
started acting erratically,
Uh-huh.
and then charged at a police officer with a knife.
Oh, my God.
It seemed like a complete mental breakdown.
Wow, what was going on? I remember hearing that he was yelling about the rapture and things like that.
Yeah, exactly. Reports indicate that he was having delusions and acting totally out of character.
And to top it off, police found a whole arsenal of weapons in his house.
Yeah.
We're talking dozens of guns,
Mm-hmm.
flamethrowers, and a massive stash of ammunition.
It's a terrifying situation.
Wow.
This case really highlights how important it is to prioritize mental health,
Yeah.
especially for touring musicians who face constant pressure and a chaotic lifestyle.
I shudder to think what could have happened if his mental state hadn't been addressed.
Right.
Now, this next case
Mm.
involves an artist who's worked with so many bands we've talked about on the show,
Yeah.
Jean-Pascal Fournier.
Okay.
He created album covers for Immortal Dragon Force,
Mhm.
Unleash the Archers.
Mm-hmm.
You've definitely seen his artwork before.
Right.
But in 2020, he was involved in a crime so horrific,
Yeah.
it's difficult to even comprehend.
It's true. Fournier was accused of shooting his 80-year-old father with an arrow beating him. And then, well, the details are incredibly gruesome.
That's absolutely horrifying.
Yeah.
It's difficult to process something like that.
It's tragic. Yeah.
And it's a stark reminder that even those who create art,
Yeah.
even those we admire, can be consumed by darkness.
This case shook the entire metal community,
Right.
especially since his artwork was everywhere.
Yeah.
It's just a reminder that even in a genre that's known for its dark themes,
Mm-hmm.
there are real-life consequences and real victims.
Exactly. And it brings up the question, can we separate the art from the artist?
I think that's something each listener will have to decide for themselves.
It's a complex issue with no easy answers.
Yeah.
But it's an important conversation to have.
Definitely.
You know,
Yeah.
thinking about that question, separating the art from the artist, it makes me think about the murder of Dimebag Darrell.
Man, that case hit everyone hard. He was a legend, a
Yeah.
true guitar innovator,
Absolutely.
especially during his time with Pantera.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe anyone would want to hurt him.
It's a tragedy. Back in 2004, while he was performing with his band Damage Plan, a deranged fan stormed the stage and shot him. I remember hearing about it. It was just awful.
Yeah.
Not only was Dimebag killed,
Right.
but the shooter also took the lives of other people in the audience and crew who were just trying to help.
It was devastating, and it really forced the industry to confront the issues of security at concerts, mental health, and the dangers of obsessive fans.
It's so disturbing. I remember reading that the shooter, Nathan Gale,
Yeah.
believed Pantera was stealing his music and ideas.
Yeah, that kind of delusional thinking is unfortunately something we see with some extreme fans.
Right.
And it's a stark reminder that violence can erupt even in spaces intended for shared passion and community.
Yeah.
The impact of Gale's actions was immense.
immense.
Not just on Dimebag's family and friends, but on the entire metal community.
He's a true icon. His death was a huge loss.
Yeah.
And it still felt deeply today.
Absolutely. It was a wake-up call for everyone to take security and mental health issues far more seriously.
Okay, this next case is one that I always found deeply disturbing.
Oh, yeah.
The story of Joe Franklin, the guitarist for the underground metal band Goat Lord.
This is a truly unsettling case. In 2015, Franklin murdered his neighbor,
Oh my gosh.
a young mother,
Wow.
in front of her 3 children.
In front of her kids. I can't even imagine the trauma they must have endured. What could have possibly driven him to do something so horrific?
It's incomprehensible, and tragically, after killing the mother, he kidnapped her eldest son,
Oh my God.
took him back to his own home,
Wow.
and killed the boy before taking his own life.
It's just pure, senseless violence.
Yeah.
It's hard to find any meaning or understanding in something
Mm.
so awful.
There were reports of erratic behavior from Franklin in the weeks leading up to the crime,
Right.
but no one could have predicted such a tragic outcome.
It's a dark stain on the metal community.
Mm.
It really makes you question what could lead someone down such a dark path.
It's a case that forces us to confront the darkest aspects of human nature
Yeah.
and reminds us that there are limits even within a community that often explores dark themes.
Speaking of exploring dark themes, we can't talk about crimes in metal without discussing Varg Vikernes,
Right.
also known as Count Grishnak,
Yeah.
from the band Mayhem.
This is a case that's both fascinating and deeply troubling. Vikernes was a central figure in the early Norwegian black metal scene, and that scene was notorious.
Yeah.
Church burnings, violence,
Yeah.
an obsession with the occult. It was a different world.
I've heard the stories about the church burnings, but what was behind this fascination with the occult?
Vikernes was deeply involved in paganism and Norse mythology.
Okay.
These beliefs influenced everything from his music to his actions.
Right.
He saw himself as a warrior fighting against Christianity and modern society.
So these beliefs played a role in his crimes.
Absolutely. He was convicted of arson for burning down several historic churches in Norway.
Wow, he really lived up to the church-burning metalhead stereotype.
Right.
But didn't he also commit murder?
Yes. In 1993, he stabbed his Mayhem bandmate Euronymous to death. The details are a bit murky, but it seems to have been fueled by personal and ideological conflicts within the black metal scene.
It's almost like something out of a movie, a real-life metal horror story.
It's a complicated story,
Yeah.
and it raises questions about the relationship between art ideology and violence. Vikernes became a kind of anti-hero in the black metal scene,
Really?
with some fans even seeing him as a martyr.
A martyr that's pretty disturbing when you consider the severity of his crimes.
Yeah.
It seems like a dangerous glorification of his actions.
It speaks to the power that music and image can hold. and how individuals can become symbols of extreme beliefs.
Okay, get ready for this one.
Hmm.
This is a case that always sends chills down my spine.
Oh, yeah.
It's the story of the Beast of Satan.
This is a truly chilling example of how a group of metal fans can spiral into violence and depravity.
The Beast of Satan wasn't just a band name.
Right.
They were an actual cult.
Yes. This was a group of young metalheads in Italy who formed a satanic cult in the late 1990s. They engaged in drug-fueled rituals that ultimately culminated in the brutal murders of two of their own members.
They killed their own friends? Why? What could have driven them to do such a thing?
It seems like a complex mix of factors: drugs, mental instability, and a twisted interpretation of satanic beliefs.
Wow.
The leader, Andrea Volpe, had a disturbing fascination with violence and control.
It's terrifying. And how did they manage to get away with this for so long?
It took the unwavering dedication of Fabio Tallis, the father of one of the victims, to bring the truth to light.
Oh, wow.
He spent years investigating his son's disappearance, gathering evidence, and pushing the police to take action.
That's incredible talk about a parent's love for their child.
Yeah,
He became a real-life detective determined to uncover the truth.
absolutely. It's a powerful story about persistence and the refusal to give up hope even in the face of unimaginable tragedy.
This Beast of Satan case is just, it's beyond comprehension, the level of brutality.
Right.
And the fact that it involved young people who were supposed to be friends.
Yeah.
It's truly horrifying.
It's a dark reminder that the lines between fantasy and reality can be easily blurred, especially when drugs and mental instability are involved.
Yeah, it's a terrifying thought how easily things can go wrong, especially when vulnerable young people are involved. And it brings to mind another case that really shook the metal community. Ian Watkins, the former frontman of Lost Prophets.
This one is tough to even talk about. We cover some pretty dark stuff on the Latin Metal Cruise Show. Watkins' crimes are on a whole different level of depravity.
It's true, in 2013, Watkins was convicted of a string of horrific sex offenses, including the abuse of infants and young children.
I remember when that news broke, it was just unfathomable. The details of his crimes were so disturbing, so sickening. It's almost impossible to comprehend how someone could do something like that.
Yeah, it was a case that sent shockwaves through the entire music industry. Watkins was a popular figure. He had a huge following, many of whom were young fans. It's mind-boggling. How could someone with fame, fortune, adoration, how could he be capable of such monstrous acts?
This case really exposed the dark side of fame and how easily power and influence can be used to exploit the vulnerable. It also raised questions about how someone like Watkins could operate for so long without being detected.
It's a horrifying reminder that evil can hide in plain sight. We can never truly know what lurks beneath the surface.
Sadly, there were reportedly multiple warnings about Watkins' behavior over the years, but they were either ignored or dismissed.
That's a complete failure of the system. It highlights the critical need for greater awareness, education, and robust reporting mechanisms when it comes to child sexual abuse. We have to do better.
You're absolutely right. We've covered some incredibly heavy cases today, some fueled by passion, others by drugs and mental illness, and some that are just pure evil. It's hard to grasp.
It's important to remember, though, that these cases, while horrific, are not representative of the entire heavy metal genre or its fans.
Right. The vast majority of metalheads are peaceful, law-abiding people who are drawn to the music, the energy, the community.
But as we've seen today, darkness exists everywhere, even in a community that often explores the macabre and the extreme.
These cases force us to consider the complex relationship between the art and the artist. Can we separate the creation from the creator?
That's a question I've grappled with a lot, especially after researching for today's deep dive. And honestly, I don't think there's an easy answer. I believe it's up to each individual to decide how they want to engage with the art of someone who has committed horrific acts.
And that leads us to an even bigger question. If music can inspire such intense reactions, both positive and negative, what does that say about its power?
It's undeniable. Music is a powerful force. It can unite people, provoke thought, inspire change. But as we've discussed today, it can also be a catalyst for darkness.
That's why it's so important that we use our voices and our platforms responsibly. To speak out against injustice, support the vulnerable, and use music's power for good.
Well, that's about it for our deep dive into the dark side of heavy metal. We've delved into some truly disturbing territory, but I hope it's given you some food for thought. Remember, it's important to acknowledge the darkness, but don't let it consume you. Keep listening to the music you love. Keep your hearts open and keep each other safe.